Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I'm going to be taking a look through my vintage autograph book. Now, I've had this little fella for, well, many years, decades in fact, since I was a kid, and it's full of people that I met during the 80s, 90s and even in the early 2000s. I don't tend to bother getting autographs in my autograph book anymore because, well, things have changed a bit, and celebrities and actors, they generally charge even to just pop a signature into an autograph book, which I think is a little bit silly. I can understand it on a signed photo and you're potentially paying for the photo and their time to do it, but at the same time, I think it's a bit weird charging just for an autograph book, so I sort of knocked that on the head in the early 2000s. However, there are still some very interesting autographs in here. I was able to identify most of them. There was just a couple which I wasn't quite sure about, so when you get to those you might see someone in there that you think, I know who that is. They're predominantly made up of Doctor Who, Star Wars, general science fiction and comic book related sort of stars, luminaries, writers, that sort of thing. And they sort of fit in with what I cover on this channel, so I do hope you enjoy it. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so I thought we'd start with my original autograph book. Now, I've probably had this one since I was about 8 years old, maybe even longer than that. So it's a bit of fun, and I've never really shared this with anyone. I don't know if I'll even be able to remember everyone who's in here, but we'll have a look through, and potentially I'll go back later on once I'm editing this video. I'll pop in pictures of the actual people who are in here, and also it might give me a chance to recognize some of the people who perhaps weren't easily identified. So this is the very first one then. So I remember getting this autograph book probably just prior to the Doctor Who celebration in 1983, because I took it to Longleat. So that signature there is Anthony Ainley, who was of course the Master. Then a few loose bits here. So a lot of Doctor Who in here initially, as you would expect, being a big Doctor Who fan. So this is John Pertwee, Tom Baker, there we are, 84, sort of dating it there, and John Leeson as K9. That one there, I can't really remember who that one is, so that's one I'm going to need to look up. Andrew Skilleter is obvious, he was the Doctor Who artist, wasn't he? This one here is a little Peter Mayhew, a Chewbacca. This one, these are just loose ones. That one there is Nichelle Nichols, Uhura, from Star Trek. These are a couple of Ian Banks, the author's book plates. It's quite nice there. I'll put one of them in my copy of The Wasp Factory. Craig Charles from Red Dwarf, look at that. He came down and did an evening with Craig Charles in 1995 at the university. And that's his sort of signature along there. So that's those few odd bits covered. Sophie Aldred, she came down to Purple Haze and did a signing in the shop. It was very nice. Fiona Cumming, Doctor Who director. Mike Tucker is the Doctor Who and Red Dwarf special effects chap. Who's this? I think that's Pat Roach. Now, Pat Roach was in Never Say Never Again, one of the Indiana Joneses, but most famous for Elvita's Own Pet. Doctor Who producer JNT, John Nathan Turner. Tom DeFalco, he was a sort of a comic editor, as I recall. Michael Wisher, the very first Davros from Genesis and Destiny of the Daleks. Upside Down is Colin Baker. And Carl Potts, he was another comic book related one. So this is Patrick Troughton and Michael Culver, who was in Empire Strikes Back, Secret Army and many other things. David A. Roach, a 2000 AD artist. Jackie Lane, Doctor Who companion. A lot of Doctor Who ones in here. Marvel editor Anne Nocenti, is it? Cyber leader David Banks. Dennis Spooner, so noted scriptwriter, editor, author, fantastic, massive involvement in British telefantasy. Dennis Spooner. Avengers is Doctor Who as well. That looks like Chris Boucher, who was Doctor Who and Blake 7 as well. That is Doctor Who producer Graham Williams. And that is Paul Cornell, of course. Jules, long ago. And then Paul for many years. Since we were teenagers, in fact. That is... I think it's... I can't remember who that one is. That's William Shatner. The Shat. Look at the state of it. Okay, so we got Bob Baker and Dave Martin, the creators of K9 and also Doctor Who writers. That's Matt Wagner, the comic book artist and writer, famous for Demon. I think that's Dave Gibbons, the artist. So we've got Judge Dredd and 2000 AD artist Brian Bolland. That is Anthony Daniels, C-3PO. Thankfully put that there. And that's Doctor Who target novelist Terrance Dicks. So those are the... We've got... These are from Crisis. So is it Steve McMahon and Pete Hogan from Crisis, the British comic. Richard Franklin from Doctor Who. Mike Yates. That's the original Freak Brothers writers and artists, Hunt Emerson and Gilbert Shelton. That's really nice. Ian Marter, Harry Sullivan. Great, what a nice guy he was. Really good guy. Oh dear, who's that? Oh, Peter Mayhew. Yeah, Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca. I just realised that's the same as the other Peter Mayhew there. John Levine, Benton. Kenny Baker, R2-D2. Special effects guy, Matt Irvin, Doctor Who and Blake 7. Alan Grant, British comic book writer. The Brigadier, Nick Courtney. Another one of my favourite Dread artists, Carlos Escazera. A lot of these got in the 90s. Pip and Jane Baker, the Doctor Who writers. Beto. I think that's a comic book related one again. Paul Blake, Greedo from the original Star Wars. You've got Tim Quinn and Dickie Howett, who did the Doctor Who little comic strip in the 80s, and in the top right corner there is Kev O'Neill, who did a noted comic book artist, but mainly back then for Nemesis the Warlock. That's really nice, that, isn't it? Vera Lynn, we'll meet again. Vera Lynn died this year. John Ridgway, who did some Doctor Who stuff and some brilliant Judge Dredd stuff. That is To Julian Best Wishes. Who is that? Who is that there? I cannot tell. Is it Tim or Jim? Can't remember. That is Kate Estelle. She was something to do with Doctor Who magazine, I think. Don't know what she's doing in there. Harla, Boba Fett. Sadly, Jeremy Bulloch also died this year. John Freeman and Sheila Cranner, I think they're the artist and also Doctor Who magazine related. That is, I think that looks like that is Mike Grell, the comic book artist. Mike Grell, that's who that is. Look, Terence Dudley. So he was he wrote The King's Demons, but did a lot with Survivors, TV show Survivors. Tom Veitch, DC writer. Doctor Who director Peter Greenwade. Warwick Davis, Wicket from Star Wars. We've got Gerald Flood, who was he did the voice of Chameleon in Doctor Who. Marv Wolfman was a comic book artist and writer. Jim DeMatteis, the same, and Cam Kennedy, another great artist. He also did Star Wars Dark Empire, the comic book series of that. Another Matt Wagner, he's in it twice. That is Mark Strickson, Doctor Who companion Turler. That is Yvonne Craig, Batwoman. Peter Davison, met him numerous times, but that's the first signature for him. That is from Red Dwarf, Danny John Jules, the cat. Then we've got Sarah Sutton, Nyssa, and Mike Edwards, who played Logray in Return of the Jedi. That's Janet Fielding. Tegan Javanka. That is Michael Culver, is it, who played Bib Fortuna in Return of the Jedi. That, very faint, but it's Matthew Wardhouse, Adric. That is... I don't know who that is. Who is this? Jules with love. Honestly, can't remember that one. Doctor Who director Christopher Barry. Pat Mills, the 2000 AD, amongst other things, writers. So these are comic book related ones, both of them, and I can't remember who either of them are. There you go. John Wiles, I think that was a Doctor Who related one, and that one, it might come back to me, I can't remember. Brett Owens, Victor Pemberton. So I met Victor Pemberton at a convention, and he'd just written the adaptation, ironically, of Fury from the Deep, based on the based on the shooting script, but he'd never heard it. I said, I've got it on audio, because it was doing the rounds back then, and I sent him a copy up with some other sort of fan-related stuff, and that was it. So he sent me the address and his phone number. And I got a little thank you, a package of stuff back from him, which was really nice. He was a really, really great guy, Victor Pemberton. Tom Frame, a 2000 AD letterist, did the Apocalypse War. Myra Hancock. That is Paul Erickson, who I believe wrote the Doctor Who story, The Ark. That is Star Wars conceptual artist Ralph McQuarrie. Look at that. To Jules, may the force be with you. That's really nice. He was another really nice guy. That's Michael Bryant, Doctor Who related, and that is Jamie Delano, another comic book related one. Michael Craze, Ben in Doctor Who, and Graham Harper, who directed my Doctor Who years later in Rise of the Cybermen, but that was back in the 80s when I first met him. Terry Walsh, who was John Pertwee's stunt double. Now, who's this one here? I'm almost tempted to say it's Eunice Gayson, who was in... No, it's Garrick Hayden, who was Biggs in Star Wars. That's Biggs, Garrick Hagen. That's who that one is. That is Michael Sheard. So, also from The Emperor Strikes Back, famous for Grange Hill, of course. Indiana Jones, I mean, so many things. Nicola Bryant, Perry Brown, Doctor Who. Trina Robbins was a comic book artist. That is very rare to get. This one, I guess, is Kevin Stoney from the Troughton story, The Invasion, but brilliant artist in the Avengers in dozens and dozens of things. Brian Talbot, comic book artist. Chris Bell and somebody Fox, they were artists as well. Snooker player Ray Reardon. That's Dave Gibbons, the Watchmen artist, and amongst other things. Nigel Planer from The Young Ones. Tony Atwood did a few non-fiction books and a Blake Seven novel, I seem to recall. Ed Bishop from UFO. He was another really nice guy. Great guy. Richard Franklin was his address. That's John Byrne, classic comic book artist and writer John Byrne. That was Tom Baker's hand. We did an interview with Tom Baker, myself and Duncan. He wrote, this was the address to send the finished copy to when he was in the South Bank. Cannot remember who that one is. Jerry Ordway, Superman artist at that time. And look at that on the back. Dave Prowse, another one we lost recently. So there we are. So that's everything from the autograph book. Pretty cool. A couple to identify there as well. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed looking through my little autograph book. Now, as you may have noticed when we were going through, this was in, well, pieces basically. And I have a funny suspicion that a small little part of this book has potentially fallen out of a box and is potentially in with some other photographs and old bits and pieces like that. Because I know distinctly that I had Peter Cushing in here and Elizabeth Sladen from Doctor Who. So I do know that those ones are missing. I've got them on other pieces, you know, other bits that have been signed, but I'm sure I had them in my autograph book as well. So I have a funny feeling that there may be a few pages missing, in which case I shall do an update if I find them. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. I'm going to do a follow-up one to this with all my sort of signed photographs, that at least I can get my hands on at the moment. And that will be coming in like a couple of weeks' time. So until then, do please give the video a thumbs up. Do please hit that subscribe button if you've not already. And I shall look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.